Greetings. Finally, I'm here talking to you now. I must apologize for the long delay, as I've never expected it to take this amount of time to get an announcement video going, but rest assured, the wait is not going to be long anymore. But it is rather unexpected, and hear me out here. During the weeks and months I had off, I tried getting into the mood of doing Return of the King, and sadly, I kept failing. I read a lot of the book again and again, and just tried to get through it, and then it hit me. I felt that the grounds to do it were too vast, too complex, and too difficult for my waning interest to keep at it once more. And I know what you're wondering, and it grieves me to say this, but after giving much thought, I think 2 books done in this audio format has been a big trip, and I'm very thankful you were all here to stick with me. Fellowship and 2 Towers were really fun to do, and I hope to go through them to fix some errors. I'm also open to trying to dramatize other shorter parts of Tolkien's, like what I did with the Ringwraith story from the Unfinished Tales. And I will hope to fix other audio-technical issues as well. As for Return of the King, well, as I said, it's just this epic finale that I'm afraid is just too daunting to try to get through. It's got sounds of battles and many armies and sieges and explosions, and knowing how hard it is just to get a realistic sound for a traveling company of 12 riders, doing a siege of 200,000 strong will be so difficult. And it's just lots of stress. With much regret, I will say that Return of the King is definitely postponed. Or not even possible right now or in the near future. I just can't do it right now. But now this is it. Now there is still hope. In the wake of this misfortune, I found another book that is more streamlined and was written by someone else, and has garnered tremendous popularity over the recent years. Disbelieving the criticisms, I read this novel during the summer and was absolutely convinced it was the perfect successor to what I did with Lord of the Rings in the audiobook format. I know I might sound crazy, but it has the same emotional weight and even mounting tension that Tolkien himself would be proud of. It may not be high fantasy, but I'm sure it will resonate well for many of the younger readers of this generation. I was really mesmerized by the description and flow of words within it, and I'm absolutely excited to have to tell you this. You will enjoy it. I had a very lovely friend of mine take her time off to read the first few pages, and the result has been far better than I even imagined and thought. It will definitely make you rethink this book series, and will hopefully give you just as much fun listening through as I go through the first book, as well as the rest, hopefully. It's a drama of mythical creatures in an everyday world, and you've certainly heard of it. So, instead of Return of the King, let me proudly present this new project I'm working on.
Twilight by Stephanie Meyer. For my big sister, Emily, without whose enthusiasm the story might still be unfinished. But of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, for in the day that thou eatest thereof, thou shalt surely die. Genesis 2:17. I'd never given much thought to how I would die, though I had reason enough in the last few months. But even if I had, I would not have imagined it like this. I stared without breathing across the long room into the dark eyes of the hunter, and he looked pleasantly back at me. Surely it was a good way to die, in the place of someone else, someone I loved. Noble even. That ought to count for something. I knew that if I'd never gone to Forks, I wouldn't be facing death now. But terrified as I was, I couldn't bring myself to regret this decision. When life offers you a dream so far beyond any of your expectations, it's not reasonable to grieve when it comes to an end. The hunter smiled in a friendly way as he sauntered forward to kill me. Do I do more of this? Do I have to read more of this? It's so stupid.
Okay. You know what? Who am I kidding anyway? I'm sorry, that was awful of me. That was terrible. Did I really say Twilight? That was a lie. This is the truth.
She meets an exquisitely handsome boy at school, for whom she feels an overwhelming attraction, and who she comes to realize is not wholly human. Because he's an alien. Alien from outer space. I'm already bored of reading this. I don't want to read this again. Good Lord, Emily, how do you live with the guilt of knowing it's your fault that this exists?
Hello again. As I promised, I'm here talking to you once more and answering, but should I speak in what kind of an accent am I doing? This is my normal voice. It's very exciting. Oh, goodness, I love all your comments. They're really inspiring, and I was so happy to know what parts worked and which ones didn't. It will help in the future, I guarantee. I'm afraid I don't know how long this ramble will be, but I will answer the questions I saved up for this little video instead of a direct response via text on YouTube. So, to start with, I've actually heard of LibriVox, and they're pretty awesome. I always wanted to read these classical works such as the Iliad and the Odyssey. Yes, I haven't read the actual book, but other simplified versions and documentaries and other stories about it, so I'm not completely in the dark when it comes to those ancient Greek myths. Trust me, I know enough about that, but I've never really tried to read the actual thing, so LibriVox, I think it was LibriVox that had it. And they do, I think. I didn't check, which I should. I'm so ill-prepared, I'm sorry. Anyway, and I've also always wanted to read Dracula. Thankfully, with this now, I can get it on audiobook, and I actually find it refreshing that each reader is a different person, and it kind of shakes off the monotony that other professional audiobooks can suffer from. Now, don't get me wrong, they're all great, but this is a bit of a more interesting venture, to tell you the truth. It's pretty cool. Surprise, I'm not a huge reader myself, and I find audiobooks to compensate for my impatience and reckless attention span. And thanks, Ginger Tea. I have not thought of that. That will be amazing. Too bad I'm all done with most of Gollum, but there will be the Tower of Cirith Ungol in the Land of Shadow, with more orcs that really wreck one's throat. Ginger Tea. Another question I got was also kind of fun. As I read all those Lord of the Rings audiobooks chapters, obviously I try to diversify my voice as best I can. Usually I'm okay, but there are plenty of times where a random character comes out of nowhere and he has no particularly unique presence, but I have to make up something to not just sound like the narrator talking once more. So the question, in fact, was, what voice was the hardest to do? Well, as far as getting physically exhausted, I would say the ones that strained my vocal cords the most were the orcs. That should tell you why the last chapter took so long to get done. I usually try to get through a whole chapter in one go, and once I have to start snarling and sounding like this as an orc, it starts getting really painful. And if I knew about the powers of ginger tea, I think it would have been quite better and easier. So there's orcs, which obviously come in as number one in terms of straining with the voice, and then probably Gollum. Though he isn't as bad as you think he is. Most of you have watched the fantastic behind-the-scenes documentaries on the films and saw actor Andy Serkis always had to have this tea on the ready for him during his performances, which they affectionately called Gollum Juice. And I tried my best to sort of replicate that deadly brew. But alas, without Ginger. Next time, precious, next time, we be the master. We takes the ginger and puts it in the brew. Then we drinks it. Then we become Gollum, most precious Gollum. Gollum the Great, my love. Gollum. Treebeard wasn't all that hard, but when it came to manipulating and giving it that giant bass rumble, it was a bit bothersome, to tell you the truth. As far as creativity goes, nothing to do with my physical voice problems when I have to do stuff like this. As I mentioned before, the characters that just appear once and leave, those are the hardest to do. People like Eothane, Keorl, a few hobbits, and random other voices in the background are just challenging because I really try to find a unique voice for each of them, but they're all pretty much the straight voice. That is, no real wackiness in it, and just a natural, normal human voice. All the other characters, especially characters that appear in the films, are far easier to do because I rely heavily on the actors' performances for the films, and I would have never been able to pull off so many of them without that. And I'm so happy there are so many that made it into the movies. And also I got this question. Who's your favorite character? Besides Gandalf. Nice one. Well, as a kid, watching the movies, the first character I gravitated towards was Saruman. I've always had an affinity for the bad guy, as a kid, for some reason, especially in the Disney movies, and I always liked opposites of good guys. Saruman was, of course, ultimately the evil version of Gandalf in the end, though my interest quickly changed to the Balrog. Yeah, what is it with me and bad guys? I don't know. Later on, and of course right now as I am older, I honestly can't say I have a character I really like over the others. They all serve their purpose and are really likable. I honestly can't say there's one that I like over them all. One character to rule them all. If the question was about the specific audiobook, or whom I had more fun doing the voice of, well, most likely someone easy. Then again, I always had a blast doing characters that were far out there that sound nothing like me in real life. Of course, Gollum, Treebeard, orcs, even if they were hard to do, ringwraiths. And here's funny, I actually did a lot of the humming noises for the ring, for the Minas Morgul chapter. Take a listen, here you go. And believe it or not, I even did a lot of the vocals for Farmer Maggot's dogs. So, lots of the low guttural trees and low growls from the Balrog, too. I attempted to do the Ringwraith scream, but only a certain screenwriter with a harsh cold really pulled that off effectively. I really wish I could do Sauron better. I sadly can't get that evil, hollow, and stony sound that the voice actor did. And I've just now been looking for a good 20 minutes on who this mystery voice actor is. I know Salah Baker performed the Sauron from the prologue in Armor, but hearing his voice before, it's not the voice of Sauron himself. Now seriously, who is that? Who is this mystery voice actor who did Sauron's voice? Build me an army worthy of Mordor. Who is that? There is no life. Yeah, see, I can't do it. Is it Alan Howard? Now I'm thinking, who did the voice for the One Ring? I don't know. Anyway, whoever it is, it was fantastic. And I wish I could do that one. That's like the one that I really wish I could do. And now we come to the last part. The last and next to Return of the King question, will you do Return of the King? The most frequent one is, will I be doing The Hobbit? Well, I've been avoiding that question quite a bit, to tell you the truth. Well, let's put it like this. I'm in no way comparing my project to the multifaceted 250 million plus production of the film trilogy, which employed over 1,000 people doing fantastic work that was pushed through the Hollywood pipeline against a lot of odds and was fueled primarily by director Peter Jackson's, writers Fran Walsh and Philip of Boyens, and producers Mark Rodesky's, Barry Osborne's, and the little company that could wet us, not to mention the many other players' belief that this project was able to be pulled off somewhat through the directors and writers' failure with King Kong from '96, and the burning desire to do something that would eclipse that and prove themselves. That is, prove the filmmakers. And of course, the keen interest to tackle such a giant project. But, after doing Lord of the Rings, which was a project that was being worked on since way back in 1996 to 2004, you can't help but feel like you've given it your all. And thinking about going back and working on what is, you have to admit, a condensed and miniature version of Lord of the Rings does not sound all that appealing after the long haul, which was this dense 1,000-plus page book. And I kind of feel the same way about it with my audiobook. I'll hold my tongue from the upcoming film adaptations, and I'm in the tiny minority when it comes to that topic. But for now, I'd just like to focus on finishing Lord of the Rings. And we'll see what happens afterwards. It has been a bit of a fool's hope of mine. And now, hear me out here. I'll just say it right now. It has been a bit of a fool's hope of mine to somehow be in a position to officially redo this Lord of the Rings audiobook with professional actors, more exquisite sound design, and an official publisher. I mean, wouldn't that be cool? And new recording techniques which would really make it a feast for the ears. And who knows what the future might hold? The road goes ever on. And maybe at some point, the soundscape audiobook to The Hobbit could be something much more engaging than what I can do just by myself. Who knows? It's the future. Well, that concludes my questions, and here I am, talking in my normal accent, and it's very disappointing, I'm sure. And I don't know. It's summer, it's hot, I dislike it, but you probably don't, and I hope you have a fantastic summer. If you still want to talk to me about anything, please do not hesitate. It's really so much fun to do this, and I'm privileged, and it's been a delight to have you liking and listening to what I'm doing. So, thank you very much, and we'll see what happens next. Then, out of the blackness in his mind, he thought that he heard Danham speaking. Yet now the voice seemed strange, recalling some other voice that he had known.
"Begone, foul Gwymmerlake, Lord of Carrion! Leave the dead in peace!"
A cold voice answered.
It is true. I have no hand. I have the sword. Instead. Walk on.
What? Do what you will. But I will hinder it if I may.
Hinder me. You have a sword. I have a sword.
Then Millie heard of all sounds in that hour the strangest.
It seems heavy metal music has been playing in the background for all this time. But no little man am I. You look upon a woman. Eowyn I am, Eormund's daughter. You stand between me and my lord and kin. Begone! You be not deathless. Living or done and dead, I will smite you if you touch him.
The winged creature screamed at her, but the ringwraith made no answer, and was silent, as if rocking out, and banging his head left and right, if he had one. There, some paces from him, sat the great beast, and all seemed dark about it, and above it loomed the Nazgul Lord like a shadow of despair.